I'm sure we can all agree that airsoft is a very fun sport. The fact that you can go out and roleplay shooting at each other without the negative side effects of dying and not having to worry about getting all your gear covered in paint is incredibly convenient. What's more is that airsoft guns are one-to-one replicas of the real steel counterparts, so if you do a lot of real steel shooting but don't have access to land or a range to shoot on, airsoft is going to be your best bet. However, even though the game itself is great, airsoft is plagued with many small issues which not a lot of people talk about because they get overshadowed by much larger issues, like cheaters.
Hey, you got me! Hey, I'm not accusing you of anything, but I think I got you, man. I already shot you.
People who play solely to assault other players. And others. This video is not about these types of issues. My previous video goes through these issues and more if you'd like to watch it. This video will revolve around a few of the smaller issues, some of which will be obvious to anyone who has ever thought about playing airsoft, but some will only be understood by those who have been playing in the sport for a long time. I've been playing airsoft for 4 years, and I think it's safe for me to say that when I make a video about it, I know what I'm talking about. This video is basically the polar opposite of my last one, so if you watched it and thought I was too angry, then this one is for you. Let me start this section with something we can all agree on. California is, by far, the best state in the entire country for airsoft. With 2 major distributors, and potentially even more that I'm unaware of, Milsim West, over 50 fields spanning across the entire state, and it sharing an ocean with China, Japan, and Taiwan, all 3 of these countries being great for airsoft as well, it's no surprise why California is the best state for airsoft. There's more fields on the East Coast, sure, but the amount of fields in California alone far surpass the amount of fields in any state on the East Coast. So if you live in California, you're bound to find a field that you like. Unfortunately, because California is so popular for airsoft, it leaves other states in the dark. States like South Dakota, Wyoming, both have 1 field. And let's not get started on Nebraska. Little to no airsoft fields in a state leads to little to no exposure for the sport, resulting in no common player base for said area. What about airsoft stores and tech shops? With a large percentage of airsofters being based in California, it makes it incredibly hard for those stores to receive any traction, which forces them to relocate or straight up close down. It also doesn't help that California has some of the best fields, along with some of the most well-known fields in the country. It just makes it harder for players outside of California to enjoy the sport. The same could be said for most major airsoft events. A good example of one I wanted to go to is AirsoftCon 2024, hosted by Evike at their main superstore in Alhambra, California. Guess why I couldn't attend? Public fear due to lack of airsoft fields is also something to point out. In states with lack of exposure to the sport, people with no knowledge of airsoft can react more negatively when seeing someone with an airsoft gun, even on private property. Despite all this, there are fields out there that can actually succeed at fixing this issue, and a good example is Nashville Airsoft, Tennessee's only indoor field. There is another, but based on the videos that I've seen, it's universally hated, so we'll skip over it. Nashville Airsoft is located right in the middle of Nashville, which is Tennessee's most populated city. Being an indoor field, it's much more preferable to play at year-round, especially during summer, considering how hot and humid Tennessee's summers are. And it's no surprise that when you look up airsoft fields in Tennessee, Nashville Airsoft is going to be on the search results every single time. And it's also not a surprise that Summertown Airsoft, despite being one of the better Tennessee fields I've played at, is so unknown because of how unpopulated Summertown is. There's absolutely no doubt that gas blowback is the most fun you can have playing airsoft. The hard kicking recoil, more realistic function, practicality for training purposes, and real steel parts compatibility, everything about it is just so much fun. But at the same time, gas blowback is a much less reliable weapon system compared to AEG and HPA. They don't work in cold weather. They need to be deep cleaned much more frequently. The internals break much easier. Oh, shit! And your round capacity is extremely limited unless you choose to run an HPA adapter. On that last point, the limited round capacity can be good or bad depending on what mindset you have. If your point of running gas blowback is for the realistic immersion where you need to make your shots count, like in real combat, okay, I have no problem with that. But if your mindset is focused only on winning, then gas blowback is going to be a bad system for you. And remember, this isn't a real firefight where if you get shot, you can't pretend you didn't feel it. In airsoft, most people tend to think that all it takes is one BB to eliminate someone, but in a sport that relies on an honesty system instead of visible markers like paintball, this could not be farther from the truth. This is what makes the limited round count in gas blowback so inconvenient. Of course, if you choose to run your gun with an HBA tank instead of through green gas mags, then all of the issues I mentioned with gas blowback are fixed. They work how they should in cold weather, your performance stays consistent, and you can run AEG magazines. So why do some people seem to have a god complex centered around running exclusively gas blowback rifles and pistols with exclusively gas blowback magazines and no HBA adapters? Maybe they just respect the craft of the game. Maybe they're real steel enthusiasts. Whatever reason you have, it's okay. I'm not gonna care. However, there seem to be players out there who will literally shun you for running any weapon platform that isn't gas blowback. And when you think logically, their actions don't make any sense, considering how hard and expensive it is to run gas blowback reliably. Like I stated in my previous video, there's really nothing you can do about keyboard warriors. You're going to find them pretty much everywhere you go. But at the end of the day, gas blowback is only better in the cool factor of airsoft guns. When you focus on the factor of practicality, AEG is going to be gas blowback every single time. If you want to scream in the comments about why I'm wrong, go ahead. You know who you are. Fields with referees that don't care.
These guys were
Yeah, he was already in the window pointing at us.
They were already all set up.
Right there.
They were in
And
the
that
air
guy's
already.
still not calling his hits. I'm getting frustrated, man.
Cheaters.
Yeah.
I know the name.
I mean, air the ref. I mean, geez, Louise.
Fields with referees that care way too much.
You already, wait, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me, or I swear to God, you'll be banned for the next 6 months. You understand me? Am I understood? Because he's recording, so you know this. Banned for the next 6 months. Good? Okay. First of all, you don't even know what I'm coming up to you to talk to you about, and you're already telling me I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. So don't give me that.
Fields that refuse to listen to their players.
Guys, can we come back? So let me answer that real quick. No. Nope.
And fields that are bad for all the wrong reasons. Anywhere you go, you're bound to find a bad airsoft field. Let's go through all these points, except for the last one, because I prefer not to discuss what happened at Miami Freaksoft. When refs decide to not care about a present issue, like cheating, the entire game goes up in flames. In this example, it took a little over 20 seconds for a ref to appear on the site of the mag dump, but in that short amount of time, the damage has already been done. Each mag dumper unloaded 2 full mags straight into the back of this poor guy's head before that ref even tried to stop the fight. Surely it can't be that hard to hear 3 HPA rifles full autoing all at once at a semi-only field, can it? And when you look closer, you can clearly tell he doesn't give a damn, and just by looking at his pace when he turns the corner, he's obviously in no rush to stop the mag dumpers. He's just there because he has to be. And when you back this example up, you can see another ref up at the catwalk here. What does he do? He blows his whistle. What an effective way to put a stop to 3 different retards unloading on some random person trying to enjoy the probably limited time he has to play airsoft like a normal person. Yes, I know he's stuck on the catwalk, and there's not much he can really do from where he is, but just standing there, staring, and blowing your little whistle is probably the worst way you could have reacted in this scenario. Refs caring way too much can also be a game ruiner. Let's say you made an aggressive playstyle at a field like Battle Lab, which allows full auto and doesn't enforce minimum engagement distance rules. That playstyle is perfectly acceptable there and can be used at some other fields, but you could take that same playstyle and bring it to a field like Tac City, you're getting banned for the next 6 months.
Swear to God, you'll be banned for the next 6 months. You understand me?
And in case you didn't notice by now, 75% of this topic is why I believe Tac City is one of the worst airsoft fields in California. And if they leave a negative comment on this video, talk garbage about me, or straight up ban me, then they'll only be proving all my points right. If you're an aggressive player, you like to do a lot of running and shooting. You can get banned at TAC for that. Here's the thing. If you're trying to rotate to a piece of cover attack and someone is shooting at you, you are dead, and you can't even shoot back because TAC actually enforces this rule. At the fields I play at, the cover is pretty far apart from each other, so if you catch me out in the open trying to move to cover, I'm going to shoot back. If you've played airsoft for any amount of time, you've likely heard of the minimum engagement distance rule, which prevents you from shooting an enemy player within a certain distance and instead forces you to scream bang bang or surrender, which counts as a kill. In my opinion, fields with very high FPS and joule limits, like 450 FPS and higher, should utilize a minimum engagement distance because people can actually get hurt at those velocities. But at Tac City, the FPS limit is 350, and the minimum engagement distance is 10 feet. They will ban you if you break this rule. How is it logical to enforce a rule so stupid at a field where the cover is so tightly packed and the FPS limit is so low that you should be forced not to shoot at someone and instead back up and shoot or scream at them? I will never understand. What's more is that the minimum engagement distance causes more problems than it should, such as misunderstandings about how far a player is from another.
Bang, bang. Sir, bang, bang, sir.
It's farther than 10 feet.
Say it again.
It's farther than 10 feet.
I disagree, sir. So we can get a ref or you can parlay.
Go get a ref.
Okay.
From the videos that I've seen, minimum engagement distance is the main reason why about 50% of airsoft arguments even happen in the first place. If you're a new player, I can understand why you think minimum engagement distance is useful. You definitely don't want to be getting shot point blank for your first time playing airsoft. But after a couple of game days, you start to develop a more aggressive playstyle, and you realize why minimum engagement distance is the worst airsoft rule to ever exist. Should I really be forced to scream bang bang at a player instead of shooting them, even though everyone at the field signed a waiver agreeing to get shot? That's the whole point of airsoft, to shoot people. Having your completely logical opinion or request ignored by an airsoft field is a horrible feeling. Everyone wants TAC to get rid of the no running and shooting rule, but they don't care. Everyone wants TAC to get rid of the minimum engagement distance rules, but they don't care. At least keep this rule for the kids only sessions. While we're on the topic of not caring about what airsoft players want, what the hell is this no recording rule about? From what I heard, TAC City wants to maintain a high reputation because of all the cheater videos taking place at TAC, but after I found out about this rule a couple months ago, they immediately lost all of my respect. And if I ever find myself in California in the future, they will never receive any money from me ever again. Unless they just, get rid of all these unnecessary restrictions, like they should have a long time ago. If you think this rule is just one of those other rules which will not be enforced, I strongly recommend you look up TAC City on YouTube and scroll for a little bit. You will be surprised at how 75% of the videos uploaded within the last few months that take place at TAC City are being uploaded by TAC City themselves. It's not a secret that airsoft isn't as popular as some of the other similar sports. I'm talking about sports like paintball, real steel tournament shooting, and even Nerf HVZ. It feels like every single time I meet someone new and they ask what I like to do for fun, I have to explain what airsoft is. I promise you, you'll never have to explain what the other sports are. It's only airsoft. Why? Airsoft also doesn't have a clear identity, which can make it harder to receive recognition. Is it a sport, a hobby, training tool, military cosplay, war reenactment game? Along with all this, the biggest issue seems to be media suppression. It receives negative press from news outlets because of its similarity to real steel firearms, something which is non-existent with paintball. Airsoft content is constantly getting shadow banned, demonetized, and straight up removed from all the major social media platforms. YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are all in on this. Because of all this, it has left me, being an airsoft channel, almost completely unable to get my channel recommended, which in turn effectively keeps me from getting monetized. Your support from applefortythree.com is the only way I've been able to make any money doing content creation. That's how bad it's gotten. So, not only are countless airsoft creators like myself having our content hidden by these major platforms, other channels made less than 6 months ago have somehow managed to get into my recommendations every single day. What's worse is that they never seem to get shadow banned. This channel has flown past YouTube's monetization requirements in 2 months just by stealing other airsoft videos. Getting back to the topic, on top of me mentioning airsoft's similarity to real steel firearms earlier, this brings its own problems outside of news suppression. There have been multiple times where airsoft guns have been mistaken for real steel firearms, and yes, this has led to horrible accidents with the police. All this in combination makes airsoft extremely unfavorable by major sources and platforms. Because of this, it's kind of impossible for normal people like you and me to push the narrative that airsoft isn't dangerous, but ignorance is, and that's why it's important to not gatekeep what the sport of airsoft actually is. We all know airsoft guns are extremely expensive. Some guns are quite underpriced for what they offer, but there is absolutely no reason any airsoft gun that performs on par with a VFC Avalon should be any more than $400. The SEMA Platinum M4 is, in my opinion, the best airsoft gun you could buy for $300. With it, you can easily hit players out to 150 feet, and you're hitting 31 rounds per second with an 11-watt LiPo. The build quality is solid, and the internals are even better. The new gen models have upgraded microswitch MOSFETs that last much longer than the older models, so you won't have to worry about it frying itself in the middle of a game. They also now come with a rotary hop-up, something that the older models didn't have, as well as a built-in connector in the gearbox for SEMA's hop-up tracer unit, which you can buy separately for $40. So, for only $280 to $370, depending on what model you buy, you're getting unbeatable value at that low of a price. Honestly, because of how good these models are, it would make more sense to increase the price a little, and they would still be worth every dollar. Unfortunately, not every airsoft gun manufacturer has a very good price to performance ratio, like SEMA does. This is the Sig Sauer MPX, and with it, there are many questionable design choices that do not make the gun worth $450. Bizarrely, this gun is wired to the handguard with a Tamiya connector. How stupid is it that in 2025, airsoft gun manufacturers are using parts and making decisions that are so much worse than what the current industry standard is setting for most airsoft guns, which is Dean's connectors and wired to the stock. The MPX utilizes a Picatinny rail to mount to stock, so you might think that's what's keeping them from wiring it to the rear, but buffer tube adapters for rails exist and can be bought anywhere, so there's absolutely no reason to front wire the gun. It just adds unnecessary weight to the front, and it certainly can't be that hard to use a couple extra bucks to make sure every model comes stock with a Dean's connector instead of a Tamiya connector. The actual performance of the stock gearbox doesn't justify the price either. For reference, this is how fast the full auto of a SEMA Platinum M4 is. In comparison, this is how fast the MPX's VFC Avalon full auto is.
Our FPS test showed an average of just about 370 FPS and about 18 RPS on full auto when using 0.20 gram BBs and a 1000 milliamp 11.1 volt LiPo stick type.
The manufacturers had to have thought this through, right? VFC Avalon gearboxes are more easily upgradable than Platinum gearboxes, sure, but we're talking about pure stock performance. I don't think wanting the performance of the airsoft guns to accurately reflect their prices is a big ask, is it? And I also don't think it's a big ask that a stock airsoft gun doesn't cost any more than its real steel counterpart. Or, 3 times as much. Well, at least there are some companies out there that are honest about it. This is the Matrix and S&T Sportsline M4, priced at $112. This is my first airsoft rifle. The performance is alright, and the rate of fire is surprisingly high despite having 18-to-1 gears and a terrible motor. But you have to remember, this gun is $112, so that price tag has to shine somewhere.
Oh shoot. Ah, heck!
Did you see it? Not only did I lose my ability to reproduce, but the entire outer barrel assembly fell straight off of the gun.
Are you kidding me?
Before I move on to the next part of this topic, let's briefly touch on some smaller parts that irritate me. This is the Matrix Calico Jack M4, priced at $245. Why is it misfeeding with EPMs, the best airsoft mags on the market? These two gear sets are the same ratio and are made of the same material. Why is one of them twice as expensive? Gas magazines are expensive because unlike AEG magazines, they contain an entire system to hold the gas, and the price of gas magazines would be justifiable if, they actually worked 100% of the time, and they didn't break when you drop them on any other surface than grass. Let's talk about green gas, why it sucks, and how airsoft manufacturers are manipulating you to spend way more money than you should be. An average can of green gas costs $10 and will last you about 40 to 80 refills. Seems like a decent deal, right? In the description, you can see that green gas is a special blend of C3H8 and silicone oil, but when you look it up, you'll see that C3H8 is literally just straight propane. As for the silicone oil part, if you're experiencing gas blowback maintenance, you'll know that silicone oil is actually bad for your guns because of its incompatibility with silicone rubber, which pretty much every airsoft gas blowback magazine has in its seals, and how quickly it runs dry because of how thin it is. If you want it to make more sense, go and watch this Explosive Enterprise gas blowback maintenance video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you've decided to ditch green gas because of the points I've made, then you're in luck because you just made a very smart financial decision. Straight propane is extremely easy to find in a hardware store, and the canisters they sell are much larger and cheaper than green gas canisters. So why would you ever buy one green gas canister and have to pay for those god-awful hazmat fees, when you can get in your car and drive 10 minutes to Home Depot and buy a 2-pack of propane for the same price, which will last you 4 times longer than a can of green gas? Isn't it amazing the things you can achieve when you spend just a tiny bit of time doing some research? So there you have it. By no doubt, airsoft has a lot of problems, some of which can only be fixed if the big name brands out there hear the voices of the unrepresented, while others only require a couple minutes of research to make your life more hassle-free. These problems often get overlooked by the issues that non-airsofters think airsoft is all about. But this simply doesn't reflect what airsoft really is. Something I've noticed during the 4.5 years of my airsoft journey is, when you get older, you realize that you actually spend more and more time socializing with other players than actually playing. If this is a universal case, does that mean airsoft is unfun, and it's the people who show up to the field that make your day instead of you landing a shot to someone's head 300 feet out? I can't say for sure. Still, at least for me, the sport remains incredibly fun when everyone is playing honestly and aggressively, and I believe we can make it even better if we all paid a little more attention to the little things about airsoft.